Okay.
Don't forget to subscribe.
If you are already married, if you are considering getting married and you are kind of trapped and both families are forcing you to get married in the West, and if you are one of those guys that is seriously considering getting married in the not too distant future, I've got some advice for you, what you should be implementing right now to protect yourself, to prepare for a possible divorce, separation that can happen at any moment and is out of your control. No matter how good you are, no matter how well you get on with your wife or your girl, things can go wrong and they can take you by surprise. I recently had a consulting call from one of you guys, a viewer, who works for the bad side, the women. And he has a team of women lawyers working on behalf of women in divorce. And he's fully aware that there's no way out. He realized, because he's as close to anybody there is to what happens behind the scenes in the courts, the discussions that happen, the negotiations, he's got his finger on the pulse of what's going on that you guys are not aware of. And he wanted to have a consulting call with me to try to figure out where he could go in the world where the laws aren't so strict and the women are as conservative and more likely to stick with you as possible. He wanted to pick my brain, and we had multiple talks about where and how he can do this. And that's someone who works in the industry and works for the women. He should know the loopholes. But he said there's no loopholes. There's no way around this. And when someone like that comes to the conclusion that you shouldn't be getting married at all, you should be avoiding it at all costs because you're going to get screwed, you should listen. And so what I've come up with is, not only with him, with multiple other people, guys in the know, a bunch of strategies that you should be implementing right now. And one of the number one strategy that you should be implementing, even if you are preparing to get married, you're engaged, both families, it's sort of like an arranged thing and there's a lot of pressure on you and there's no way you can get out of it. Or you recently married, or you've been married for a very long time and you feel quite secure in your marriage, or maybe there's some cracks showing and you just want to hear out some free resources on YouTube, some free ideas on how you can protect yourself. And that's ultimately what we're trying to do here. So the most simplistic way is look at your finances, look at all of the surplus cash, wealth that you have, and try to figure out how can you know your customer, non-KYC. Everybody knows that holding cash it's not necessarily traceable, but it's not necessarily the best thing you could be holding. So what you want to be doing is trying to figure out how you can store your wealth in a way that is non-traceable. Obviously you put it in a trust, you put your money in some sort of a trust, you think it's going to be protected, which it isn't. Something goes wrong, you end up in the divorce court, they track down this trust, they figure out that you did it during the marriage, and they unwind it and they take all your money and you get punished more for, I don't know, lying to the courts or whatever. Anything that can be traced, you should not be storing your wealth in there. And regardless of how secure you are in your marriage and how awesome your wife is, or your future wife is, and how secure you feel, you should prepare for the worst regardless, and you should be storing your wealth. You should, in fact, during your marriage, be saving cash on the side, telling her that you might have gambled it, or you might have went out drinking with the guys, or you were playing some poker and you lost it there, or you went to the football game and you're spending a little bit more money. Instead, what you should be doing is you should be storing it somewhere that cannot be traced. And now, anything physical can be traced as well. You run the risk of them finding it. So let's just say you start buying physical gold, like gold nuggets, even little gold nuggets, and you hold like a little bag of gold nuggets. If she was to find it, then she'll be aware that it exists, and you should be very careful if you were to start doing that. The other option, really, there's only really a couple of options. Storing cash, which is a terrible idea because the government might change the currency. They might change the shape of the notes or the security on the notes and reprint a whole new version of whatever notes you are carrying and storing under your mattress or in the garage. The government could just change the currency on you, so that's not a good idea. A better idea would be storing gold and hiding it somewhere, because it wouldn't be traceable. You can buy it with cash. You can buy little nuggets with cash without handing over any ID, and then it can't be traced. And keep in mind, this might take many years of just, oh, okay, I've got 20k. You go down to the store, once a week, and you buy another nugget of gold. Next thing you know, you've stored a whole load of gold. But arguably the best one would be storing US dollars in some form of a stable coin in cryptocurrency, and storing it on the blockchain, where all you do is you keep a phrase, some sort of a phrase. So storing it in crypto, I'm sure you guys can work that out. Recently there was a divorce where the wife knew that he was storing a lot of cryptocurrency, but the court didn't have the knowledge or the ability or the resources to track down where his crypto was hidden, where it was and how much there was. And so there's still a possibility you can hide it in crypto. That is a great idea. And just keep in mind, it doesn't matter how well your relationship is going at the moment, you should always be preparing for the worst. And when the divorce rate is so high, and think about how many men are being caught off guard in the West right now, where yesterday they thought the relationship was going really well, and today the relationship's over because of something that they weren't aware of. So this is just some tips for you guys. Recently I had a just to give you guys an example of how bad it can get. Recently I had my father separated with his ex-wife. They separated. They were living in different houses. He thought that she wasn't a reasonable person, and he handed over a lot of cash. He handed over, I think, the deed to some loans or some properties, and a whole bunch of furniture and cash and everything else. And he was paying private health insurance and all these other things but they had separated and they made a handshake deal that was it. And they were separated for a decade, and they never actually signed the papers of the divorce. He thought that it was already done with. He's like, done, we're done, and everything's okay now. But what she was doing was she was waiting until my father's parents both died, and the moment my father's parents, my grandparents, died, all of their assets went into my father's name. And the moment all of the assets went into my father's name, that was the moment when she then launched the divorce court proceedings and said, oh, we're officially divorced now. And he was caught off guard. He said, hey, I've given you all of this money, we've done a proper separation, it was like a handshake deal, I thought everything was fine. But she, in an evil, conniving way, kind of prepared and waited and strategized so that she could steal his inheritance. And the moment my grandmother died, which my grandfather died many years prior, as soon as my grandmother died, millions of dollars worth of inheritance went into my father's name. And then then she launched the divorce court, and his lawyers told him, there's no way she can steal your inheritance. You guys have been separated for a decade. We can prove that in court. Well, what happened was, as soon as it hit the court, nothing mattered. She was going to take more than 50% of the inheritance, even though they've been separated all those years. Just to give an example of conniving and sneaky, and if you just need to make sure that you always have the leverage, especially in a marriage. And the number one way you can keep the leverage is by hiding your assets during the marriage. And that means figuring out a way that you can put it in the cash, put it into gold, hide it in something that may or may not appreciate, or a harder currency like the US dollar over time, and try to protect your wealth somehow, and it's not in your name. Or even find, like a relative that you can put it in their name that you trust, and that's not going to screw you over as well, because that would be a double whammy if that was to happen to you. But it's better to hide it somewhere where nobody knows it is. It cannot be traced by anyone. Holding cash is not necessarily a good idea. Having another way to store it would definitely keep the leverage. You always need that safety blanket, because you never know what's going to happen. And this is what happens with women. They will get you when you least expect it if you are not protecting yourself. And so, in a way, by protecting yourself and hiding your assets, and she kind of suspects that that's what you're doing, she will respect you more and is more likely to stick around, knowing that you will always be independent financially from her, and the divorce court can't get at it. In a weird way, that will make her more likely to stick with you as well, and respect you more. So if you like this video, if you like this message, give me a thumbs up, and hopefully it's been helpful. I think if every married man in the West right now started hiding his assets, I think the world would be a better place. The divorce court would have less money to throw around and steal and put in the pockets of lawyers and courts, corrupt courts, criminal lawyers, thieves. And I think a lot more men will be a lot more financially secure. So anyway, hopefully that's been helpful. I'll see you guys in the next video.